Hi, this is Deacon John Wilson, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. Here to talk to my parents of athletes, particularly of 12th graders, but I guess this will apply to all grades because I'm going to relate the process of becoming a great athlete in high school and what it means all the way over to through going through high school and then while you're an athlete having to apply to colleges because only one in 3,900 students even uh, becomes a starter in Division I in college. I think it's like one in 3,200 that even play in college. So we have to factor that into all this for sure, but let's assume that you're thinking that they'll be one of the one or could be one of the one. But that's not really the point. It's that you don't want to dash their hopes. Maybe you don't want to disappoint them. I'm seeing a lot more of that coming out of the pandemic. But whatever the situation, yeah, you might wonder why. It's because many parents feel that the system let their kids down during the pandemic, and now they have something meaningful to them. And because of social media, especially the guys, they feel like, they can be successful in sports, successful playing a sport. And it doesn't always mean it's one of the cash sports. I mean, you could have fencing and lacrosse, in these kind of sports that they might believe they can have scholarships. So for ladies, it's cheerleading. A lot of them feel because cheerleading's become, a big part of college. Some schools might offer money, but that's not even the point you're doing it. And it may be a lot of you may feel it's a chance to get some money, but usually, because of the way college is, it's a lot of politics who actually gets the spots, gets the money. It's very hard unless your student is one of the top 10 or 15 in the state. And in track, a far less, smaller subset. So, but nevertheless, they still want to do it, and we don't want to disappoint them. I really don't. So you really have two extremes, parents. One extreme is forget about the coaches, forget about all that. They're going to have to understand. If we had SAT prep, we got essays that need to be done, colleges that need to be visited. Coach, we love you, but we're going to do that and we're going to do sports too, which means he's going to miss some time. Now, which coaches may respond and tell your student that they can't play a lot. You think that they would work with you. But you got to remember, coaches are in it for themselves. They're nice guys, but they're thinking about their next job. I know I would. The next job at a community college or a college where they can make a little more money. So sometimes head coaches don't feel that they have to, they might feel like, yeah, your son can be excused, but they may not feel like they have to offer them, you know, keep their spot open or let them start or let them play, let them still have a chance. It may bias them because there'll be plenty of kids that sell out everything to play. I'm just telling you the way it is. So one extreme is to sell out and say, forget you, coach, we're going to do it. And parents, that's an extreme. You're not willing to do that. Then the other extreme, equally a problem, I suppose, is to say, well, we're going to put all we have into athletics. And oh, by the way, we want to apply to some colleges. But really, the extreme is to not even care about that. And I would say to those parents, I'm here for you. We can set up some schools that don't have any essays, just need the transcript, and you and I can work together to get their applications in. There's some pretty good schools they can still apply to while they're doing their sports season and worried about that. And if that makes them happy, and you know what makes them happy, you're at home. So those are two extremes, but really people are probably in the middle somewhere. Maybe you'll get a day off from the team for an emergency, something with college. Maybe the coach will allow it. But I've seen close coaches have practice on essays, well, film sessions on SAT Saturdays. They really don't care. And that's something you need to note, parents. So really the question is, how are you going to handle things? Which way are you going to go in this whole thing? Of course, we have very successful college prep programs. What I see is they come to me last minute wanting to do a lot of essays in November and December when the season's over in some cases. And I'm just not equipped to be able to turn on a dime and handle that. And so they turn in subpar applications. What really is coming up here? I'm seeing more athletes that have good grades than I've ever seen, which makes your job even harder, parents. So I guess what I'm saying is know your situation, know it well. If you have a student that's really good at this, I got a couple this year that are super good. Just let us work with you on their applications that don't require essays, don't require a lot of work. And a lot of you don't want to do that because you realize there's schools that you really want them to apply. You want them to keep that part of their childhood when they're applying to a lot of different colleges. And it's not realistic to do that. I see it stressing kids out who are athletes. They tell me, that's how I know. If you ever have a conference with me, I'm going to talk about that a lot. And this is why I try to work with students on how long their lists are. If they're going to be an athlete or have any kind of serious athletic extracurricular activity that's related to it, cheerleading and support programs for teams, all that, you know, pep groups and all that kind of stuff. That's an important part of college. So parents, it's okay to be in that mode where you want them to make all the practices and games. It's okay, but don't put unrealistic expectations on the quality of the applications. It's just not fair. Um, I say the same thing when there's high schools that have a lot of activities. The students have a lot of things the school expects them to do. It's the same kind of thing. We have to make our college list, listen, commensurate with the situation of your athlete. I see it most of SAT prep because most athletes can't do those 2 days. It's hard when you're developing a skill and trying to please a coach and you think you need to play for recruiters and go places. It's very hard. How do I know all this? I had a son that played sports, you know? All right, I don't know if this helped. I just want you to think about it. But the takeaway should be adjust your college expectations and the kind of schools you think they can attend. I want you to adjust that to the real athletic situation. I mean, if you have a spring athlete, this is the time to get all the applications done. But I'm not seeing that because sports are all year round and they're being distracted by it even in the fall now. It seems like CIF has changed and is allowing them to play in different leagues for the school earlier and earlier. Sports is a year-round thing now. So I don't know what to tell you, except there are lots of great schools that don't have essays, don't have a lot of recommendations. And if one of those private schools wants to bring them in, they're not going to see an application anyway. They're going to get a scholarship. All right. I feel like I rambled, but I also feel like I said some things that needed to be said too. Hey, if you listen this long, why don't you click like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and to spread the reach of our videos. We really appreciate it, okay? God bless you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.